Good evening, everyone. Hi, Charlotte here from Enriching Environments on Tuesday evening for Top Tip Tuesday on Instagram Live. Thank you for joining. Hi, everyone. Hi. And my apologies for being late this evening. Hi, David. Hello, everyone who's joining. Thank you for doing so. So this evening, hi Ezra, we are going to be talking about gentle parenting and how to hold boundaries and parent in a gentle way. So this question came about from a follower question who keeps having an ice cream scenario in the supermarket with her son, her young son, toddler, and gets really upset. If you've read my post on this, you'll recall what her question was. So she was going to the supermarket every time her son would ask for ice cream, and she was responding in all of the correct gentle parenting ways. She was validating his need, and she was being playful, and she was affirming that they could have ice cream, but they would make a healthy one at home. So she was following all the scripts and doing all the right things, as it were, in terms of positive discipline and gentle parenting, respectful parenting, and making sure her son's needs were heard and validated. However, her question related to his reaction, because he would still get more and more upset, and the more validation she gave, he would get more and more upset. And she said it was very, very intense. Every time we went to the supermarket, it was seriously intense, and to the extent where any mention of the supermarket, then he starts talking about ice cream, and she could go to any shop where there might be a thought of ice cream, and then this scenario would happen again, and he'd be really begging for it. So what I suggested is I jump on and do a live on this. Hi, Shonali. Because this is a common scenario, hey? It's completely normal and here she is, she's just joined. Hi, Sarah. And this is a completely normal scenario when our young children want something. They really want something, and we can reason and come up with every single reason in the world and explanation in the world, but it's not something that they can change their mind, they can't understand, they can't rationalize it. So it's going to be really intense and really hard for them. A couple of things to know before we dive into gentle parenting, what that means, holding boundaries, and what that means. Just know that these very intense stages of when our child seems obsessed, if that's the right word, with something in particular. It could be a pair of Crocs, it could be an ice cream, it could be a toy that they want. The stage of intensity where it feels that nothing you can do can support them in that need, they do pass. They are short-lived and they do pass. So please be assured there is light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't stay like this forever. It's very short periods of time in our child's life, and they do move through it fairly quickly once we've validated them. I've just noticed that in the reflection of the mirror, you can see the wires hanging down from my ceiling that haven't been connected. I'm going to change the camera angle for next week. So before we begin, let's, I have my rose quartz crystal when we are, hi, Vino, how are you? Hi, Samara, how are you? Before we begin, let's set our intention for this evening's session. So, holding boundaries and parenting gently. What is your intention that you'd like to set this evening? So firstly, just take a deep breath in and exhale, and maybe do some neck and some shoulder rolls. Just relax and let that energy move a bit before we sort of begin properly. And breathe into how do you want to feel? What would you like to take away from this session? What is the energy you'd like to receive during this session? What can you visualize you feeling at the end of this session that you've received from people who are going to ask questions and from the information that's going to come up? So feel into the space in front of you and around you. If you're sitting on the floor, really ground into the floor. Do a little stretch if you like, and set your intention. And when you feel ready, then we can begin. So, Shonali just said a comment. She's now going through the stage with a 4-year-old. Yeah, it's really intense, and different things will come up at different ages as well. And the great thing is about gentle parenting is it gives us this framework, which is sort of our launch pad, our starting place from every conversation we have around anything, and that is with a toddler, and that's with an adolescent as well, with a teenager. So let's firstly begin on what gentle parenting is. So very briefly, gentle parenting is no punishments or rewards. So you're not giving them a sticker chart or candy if they do something right, or they get a good mark, or they eat their vegetables or things like that. So there's no punishments and no rewards. And the punishment side, so you're not giving them a timeout, you're not sending them to their room, obviously physical punishment, no physical spanking or anything like that. And so what gentle parenting is responsive and nurturing, and within the responsiveness and the nurturance of our children, we at our core know that we are their leaders. We are there to guide these little humans with respect and dignity. And we are very simply treating our children with the same respect that we would seek from other adults. So, with our partner, in our family, in our workplace. And there's obviously a lot of toxic culture in workplaces, in different places all around the world. But what we are doing is we know how we want to be treated. We want to be treated with respect and dignity. We don't want to receive any punishments. We don't want to be shamed. We want to be appreciated and nurtured and respected for who we are. And those are universal human needs, right? So we are treating our children with that same respect that we seek to give for others and we seek for ourselves. So no matter their size, as Dr. Seuss said, a person's a person no matter how small. What we seek is for our little person, no matter how tiny they are, they deserve that respect and dignity that we seek for ourselves. And we seek for all people, actually, not people just look like us, not people from the same background, any of that. All people, all humans deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. So this is what we are conveying to our child. This is the really, really powerful message we're conveying to our child. And with gentle parenting, there's all of that, and then the added bonus, as it were, is that this gives us the space to really reparent ourselves as well, to really step into this parenting role, knowing that our children are going to show us where our sore spots are, and they're going to show us if we received a different parenting style when we were little. Our children are going to show us all of these things, and we can call them triggers or activations or wounds, all of this language that's used sort of in therapy terms. But our gentle parenting means that no matter how tough it gets, we know that our connection with our child is the most important thing. And there's been a huge body of work done on this. And Dr. Gordon Neufeld and Gabor Mate, they wrote a really beautiful book called Hold Your Kids Tight. And they talk about attachment being the primary, the main piece in discipline: connection, attachment, and attachment is everything. And so in gentle parenting, we're not going to get it right all the time, that's for sure. We're not going to get it right even, hi Joe, we're not going to get it right 80% of the time, 50% of the time, maybe not even 30% of the time some days. But we know that our connection with our child is more important than anything else. That attachment is everything. It's critical. It's everything. And so we know that we are not, and I read this on, I think it was at Dr. Becky at Good Inside. If you're not following Dr. Becky, then do so after this live. She's got some really good little reels, little shorts on different gentle parenting, responsive parenting, positive discipline techniques. Are really, really good. And she speaks about how we're not parenting our child for today as a child, we're parenting them for how they're going to show up in the world as an adult. And so with gentle parenting, if we're not using punishments and rewards, if we're being responsive and nurturing, and leading our children with respect and dignity, then that is going to give our children this framework, these foundations, these roots of those qualities: respect, responsiveness, nurturing, being guided, being led, all of those beautiful qualities that we seek in ourselves and we seek in others. That's what we can bring forth in our child from a really, really early age. And gentle parenting for me is all about kindness as well. And the most important piece of this, and I think for mothers, often, women often, we are not very kind to our bodies. For example, we would criticize what we look like in the mirror, and then our child would hear us, or we would say something about our bikini body, or etc., etc., etc. This is, of course, is a generalization, but the modeling kindness doesn't mean that we're kind to a stranger. Our children need to see us modeling kindness to ourselves. How do we look after ourselves? How do we speak about ourselves? How do we respond to ourselves when we've made a mistake? Are we forgiving of ourselves when we made a mistake? Because if we are, when our child makes a mistake and spills a glass of water or whatever it might be, breaks something by accident because they're angry, and we're really gentle with them, but if we make a mistake and we lose our car keys or we get something wrong at work or what have you, if we are berating ourselves and our child can see we're really angry with ourselves, they're going to notice that there's this lack of congruence between the way they behave with us and the way we behave with ourselves. So that's really, really, really important, that modeling kindness isn't just about the outside world. It's more importantly, it's about our inner world. Are we being kind to ourselves? And are our children seeing us be kind to ourselves and kind to them and kind to others in the community, and looking after the community and the environment that we live in? So for me, gentle parenting is all about kindness, and it's stepping into how we felt as children, stepping into the world of our inner child, because so many things are going to come up when we're parenting, that we have an opportunity to reflect back on our childhood. Sometimes that's going to come in really, really intense moments, and at other times they're going to be less intense and it can be more reflective. But certainly there is nothing like parenting to really delve into our own childhood and see what we loved, what we'd like to keep and what we'd like to change, what we loved from our childhood and what can become a family tradition, for example, and what we'd like to shift and try to do differently with our own children. I love that quote, that parenting takes us on a spiritual transformation journey that we didn't know that we needed, or something like that. It's quite a funny quote I saw. Let me have a sip of water. Well, I didn't tell you, I was late on because I knocked over my glass of water and it went all over the carpet, and yeah, a disaster. So shall we move into actually holding boundaries in gentle parenting? Does anyone have any questions on gentle parenting before we move forward? Would anyone like any more information on that? How does everyone feel about what I've said so far about gentle parenting? Does that give a lot of clarity? And hello to everyone who's joining. Sorry, I haven't said hello. I'll give you a few moments just in case you want to type something, and then we're going to move into holding boundaries and what that looks like. We'll go back to Sarah's ice cream scenario in the supermarket, and we're gonna actually call on Vino. Put on my post, actually Vino's handle is Montessori Bambino. I'd recommend you follow her. I'd also recommend you follow True Wellness Sarah. Sarah's got some beautiful stuff on there, and if you're in Dubai, Sarah does some beautiful breathwork sessions. Vina's come up with a really great question. What do we do when we feel triggered? When you're really deeply triggered, you're going to respond from your amygdala, which is your reptilian brain, and depending the depth of your trigger and the intensity of it, there's a high possibility that you're going to do something that you don't want to do, like "Hi Jenny," like shout at your child. So the main thing for us to do is to just identify, okay, I'm feeling triggered, and then buy yourself some time, because when we go into the amygdala, we are going to be acting from our reptilian brain. We have no to little control over that. It's a very, very primitive part of the brain, which is fight, flight, freeze, or fall. And most likely what will happen is if it's brought back something from a powerful childhood memory, it's not going to be a space that we want to be in with our child. It's going to be time. It's going to be a time that we hi Dalia, hi everyone who's joining. It's going to be really, really difficult space to be in, and we're probably going to end up do something that we don't want to do, that we regret afterwards, and we're going to beat ourselves up afterwards. So buy yourself some time. And that might mean that you have just a sentence script. If you're at home, it's fine, or somewhere that you and your child are safe, is you say, I need to make myself calm, and I'm going to take some deep breaths, and I love you, and I'll be right back. And that means moving to another room, or just stepping out onto the balcony, or stepping away from them for 30 seconds to take some deep breaths. If that's possible, in that scenario, then that's the best thing to do. What we want to think about, if we can think about being logical and having steps to overcome this when this happens, or not overcome it, we want to come back into our body. Once we're in our amygdala, our nervous system's gone, seriously dysregulated. Our child is going to be probably already dysregulated. That's why we've been triggered. And then two people who are dysregulated and in their reptilian brain is a really, really intense combination. And of course, our work as parents, as much as possible, is to co-regulate with our child. How can we get back to our plumb line? How can we get back to our nervous system? And so for different people, it's going to be different techniques. For me, deep breathing, like doing the box breath, like inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and then just resting for 4. That works for me. For some people, it might be just a really, really deep inhale into the belly and then exhaling out the mouth. It might be, for other people, like really shaking your body because you can feel the energies in there. I heard this great example from a men's coach called John Wineland on Instagram, and he said that when we're stuck in something, when an animal's in fight or flight, when they're in that response, what they will do is to shake off that stress after, they've been chased by a predator and escaped. I think the example he used was a deer, and he was saying that what will happen is the animal will shake. They will shake themselves, literally getting all of that stress out. And sometimes that's what we need to do as a human, as an adult. And I know for me that's really effective. If I'm in a really, really tough spot and I can't shift the energy and I don't know what's going on with me, just shaking and shaking and shaking that stress out of my body. It's moving the energy, it's getting stuff out, it's getting out of the reptilian part of our brain, so everything else can come back in, everything else can calm down, everything. And what happens when we're triggered is basically Gabor Maté talks about it as going offline. All the thinking part of our brain, the reasoning part of our brain, the emotional regulation, all of those things have gone offline. So really all we need to do in that moment is get back online, and it's going to be different for different people. Is that a deep breath? Is it a splash of water on the face? Is it stamping? Is it shaking? Is it, I know some people just pat their bodies like this. I do tapping as well. If you look on, it's called The Tapping Solution by Nick Ortner. That's on YouTube. There's about a 12-minute video of how to do tapping. I found that really, really helpful in some of the situations of overwhelm I've had in the past couple of years. So there's lots of different techniques, and just find what works for you. But know that when we're deeply triggered, it can be really, really painful, and we won't even know that we're in that space. Do you know what I mean? Until we're really, really, it's not something that kind of, when we're deeply triggered, it's not something that sneaks up on us like getting angry or getting frustrated. It can be very, very intense, and it's very, very powerful and overwhelming. And also to know that young children's brains, because they're not developed and they are learning as they're going along and exploring, and things are, the world is at their own pace, and it should be. They are super, super, super moments of serious where you feel so infuriated, and that's okay. And it's really, really okay to go, oh my goodness, this is really, really annoying. And I'm feeling you're saying it to yourself, not to your child. And acknowledging, this is really tough, this is really frustrating, I just cannot get out the door. Just something like that, just nourishing and acknowledging to ourselves how hard this is really, really a nourishing practice to do as well. I think my take on this is that I can feel sometimes the more we know, the harder we are on ourselves. And then when we're not able to step into the space of saying the right thing and behaving in the right way and doing the right deep breaths or what have you, we can be really, really hard on ourselves. And I think that is the flip side of us having so much beautiful awareness and seeking to, hi Monica, to do all of the beautiful work we're doing. We definitely should do it, but we need lorry loads and lorry loads and lorry loads of radical self-compassion when we're doing this, because we are only human. And my partner says to me, not necessarily about parenting but other things, he says it feels hard because it is hard, and parenting feels hard because it is hard. And so please, if you take nothing else away from this session, that parenting is really, really tough, no matter what the age of your child. And it depends on, obviously your situation, your stress levels, what have you. So much is affected by our fatigue levels, what other pressures we have, what other things are going on. If we're a full-time parent, then we're just dying for some space on our own. If we're a working parent, we might want more time with our children, but we're so exhausted by the time that we get home that we're getting triggered and getting angry straight away, So there's no perfect scenario, but the intention that we set around raising our children with dignity, the intention that we set of not doing punishment rewards, the intention we set around being responsive as much as we can, that is really, really powerful. And our children feel that energy, and they feel they feel the intention within that. It doesn't need to be right all of the time, or even some of the time. The fact that you're consuming this type of media means that you are so far on this beautiful journey of understanding ourselves more and understanding our children. So holding boundaries and parenting gently. I got distracted again tonight. Let me take another sip. So there's sort of 4 pieces about holding boundaries, the way I see it, and that is we're holding space for their feelings. We are really clear on what our values are, so that our values is our home. And this plays in really importantly to Sarah's scenario with the ice cream, for example. And we're clear on our boundaries and why we have those boundaries. And then the 4th one is always modeling kindness. So let's go through those 4. So when we are setting a boundary, we must know 2 things. One, that It's okay for our child to resist that boundary. It is totally okay, particularly a young child. Over the age of 5 and 6, you can set boundaries and ground rules, and it's a collaboration, the way that